But obviously, that connects very directly with our project. That'll flow us into tomorrow when we'll do some project stuff, and then after that, you will be getting the final exam, and that's where we are. Hurricane Katrina will be resumed after final exam. So that's all I've got to say. I'm going to hand it off and let you go ahead and take it over.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Gillespie and the class, and Lauren, for allowing me to speak to your class. The reason I'm coming is this is something very near and dear to my heart and our family's heart because, as you guys know, I'm sure Lauren's talked about my son, her brother, Lexi's brother. This is my daughter, Lexi. This is Lauren's sister. Erik is 12 years old, and he is now in residential facility at Northern Illinois Academy, which is in Aurora. So we got very lucky. He's very close to home. But at a very young age, he started out having autism. And autism is it's not a mental illness, but coming with autism is a lot of mental illnesses that, they come about with that a lot of times. So I guess,
Lauren.
Say it. Lauren.
are you in trouble?
She's like, are you in trouble? Lauren is always in trouble.
Oh no. I knew it. Okay, well, anyway, so the residential facility has done wonders for him. He went in, March 4th after about 8 months of hospital stays, pretty much on. He was discharged here and there, but for the most part, 8 months, from October 24th to May 4th, of 2015. He was pretty much steadily in behavioral health facility, and then May 4th of 2015, he was taken to NIA, which is Northern Illinois Academy in Aurora. He is doing a lot better now that he's there, but he's so unpredictable. He can be doing good one day, the next day doing really bad. Currently, right now, he's having really hard times. He has schizophrenia, bipolar, autism, and explosive disorder. There's a lot of things that we don't know because he also has a lesion in his brain, abnormalities in his brain, and we're trying to figure out with tests and stuff why they're there. They can't operate on them because they're close to the brain stem. So we don't know what is what. So every piece of the puzzle still has not come together. We're still trying to figure out what's going on with him. So we're just trying to, with meds and everything, we're trying to kind of come together and figure out what's going on, what we can do to help him. And basically right now we're just kind of trying to support him. And the best thing that you can do is, for the most part, the best thing you can do is support. Because schizophrenia is a very, very tough thing to go through. Bipolar is a very tough thing to go through. Any kind of depression is a very tough thing to go through. It can be very debilitating. It can really, if you don't have the right supports in place, it can really cause a lot of problems in your life, in all aspects of your life. So things were always rough with Erik from the very get-go. When he was a baby, all the way up through kindergarten, when we started, getting some more supports, once I finally was able to get a diagnosis of autism, because I had arguments saying he didn't have autism. I knew as a mother he had autism, but I was told by many people that he didn't have it, even autism specialists. So I finally paid out of pocket, found out he had autism, got the supports in place. We still had a very rough time, but it did get easier. We got him into a therapeutic day school with the help of a autism consultant from our district. And we got him into the therapeutic day school, which he stayed in, which helped greatly until the hospital stays. And then he went to NIA, which is when he started, presenting with the psychiatric problems. which was the schizophrenia, bipolar. So, let's see, there are some things that I really want you to know about Erik. From a very young age, before Erik could even talk, the child could sing. I mean, he could not say a word, but he could sing a song. I mean, I'm talking full songs. Like, you'd hear a song on the radio, he'd pick it up like a sponge, and he would sing the song, the whole song. But he couldn't talk, so it was pretty interesting. He knew all the lyrics. At 3.5, he could say one word. He could say like one word. At 4.5, he could say like sentences. We could understand him. Other people could not. But yet he could sing and we could understand him. Pretty interesting. Way before then, before he was even able to say any words, he would come up with, like, the girls were on a play and they had, what was it, Peter Pan? They were in Peter Pan. So they had all these songs from Peter Pan and he could sing the songs from Peter Pan. He was, I think, 1.5 or 2. He knew the songs. It's pretty amazing. He couldn't walk until 2.5. He did not start walking at all till 2.5. He never crawled. But he could get over a gate. Nothing was childproof for him. Nothing at all was childproof for him. We had to go to the top of the line. That was not childproof for him. He climbed out windows when he was supposed to be taking a nap. He ended up at our front door with a neighbor many times. Yeah, he was something else, let me tell you. He was just, I mean, we called him Baby Houdini. There was a reason for that, because he got out of anything. We had to tie things with, oh my gosh, we had to tie things with string. Sometimes he got them undone. I mean, he was all over. He was tricky. I mean, it was like, there was just not smarting the kid. One thing that is very special about the child is that he loves, and when he loves fully. He is a cuddler, and he always has been. He loves to cuddle on my lap, but that's only when you can get him to stop moving, because he's constantly moving, constantly. He is very affectionate if he is attending and you can get him to relax, because trying to get Erik to relax is not an easy thing, because he's constantly on the go. He loves people, and people love him just as much. He is definitely Mr. Personality. He always has been. Since he started special needs preschool and on up, like to this day, I've called him the man on campus, because when you walk down the hall, no matter what school he's in, everybody knows him. They're high-fiving him. They know who he is. They find out I'm his mom, and all of a sudden I'm like, that's just kind of really cool, and it makes me very proud, because they really love Erik, because he's a cool kid. You know, I mean, he has his issues, but you can tell that he's really loved, and he's pretty fun. He's pretty fun. So now we'll talk about what's going on with Erik today. Starting back in September, Erik started having hallucinations. At first we thought, you know, he was at like a 4 to 5 year old level in age. That's what he tested at. And so I thought, you know, he was having like imaginary friends, which is kind of age appropriate for that, you know, time of your life. And then in September they got scary and they got kind of dark, and he started saying things that were off the wall and very scary. He was scared. He would say ow over and over, and nothing was hurting him, but to him, he was being hurt. He was being attacked. He was crying. He was trying to run away. He was asking me to help him. I couldn't help him. He was just flipping out, freaking out, wanting me to take away the pain. I couldn't take it away. So I comforted him. I tried to do what I could do. There was many nights where he stayed awake all night long, crying and scared, and screaming, and trying to get out of his room because he thought somebody was after him. He came up with 17 names of different friends, and on here I have friends in quotes because they're what he perceives as friends, but they're not real, but to him they're real. not to us. So, I mean, he was just absolutely terrified. And so I tried to call a psychiatrist. And it took me about, I think I called her over and over for like a week and a half. It took me probably about 3 weeks or 2 or 3 weeks for her to even call me back because I needed to get him in. And another 2 weeks for when she called me back, and I'm like, why don't you have an emergency number? You know, I was questioning her. I'm like, this is an emergency. I need help. And she really didn't seem to care too much. And I got an appointment, but it was in 2 weeks. Saw her in 2 weeks. I decided, you know, this is enough. We need to change. We need to change here. So at that point, let's see here. At that point, you know, Erik got pretty aggressive. In October, it just kept getting worse. I remember it being, let me see here. In October, it was when my aunt's funeral. And so through September, it was like the middle of September through October, we had to kind of deal with this. Took him to the doctor. Kind of tried to support him the best we could. Took him to the doctor, and she adjusted his meds a little bit. It didn't really work. Come October 18th, it was my aunt's funeral. I started for that whole week trying to get him into a hospital. Well, that did not go very well. I had somebody come to the house to evaluate him, and they came to the house. They said, yes, he needs to be hospitalized. Maybe it's his meds. Maybe we need to check his meds. Maybe we need to, you know, do a medication wash and start all over. Well, they called 22 hospitals, and out of 22 hospitals, they either were filled and could not take him, or they wouldn't take him because he wasn't suicidal or homicidal, which he has autism, so you can't really say, you know, how can you tell if he's suicidal or homicidal? Or he wasn't sick enough. Or the other one that's a real kicker too is that he was too sick and they couldn't take care of him because they didn't have somebody to help because he needed the hand-over-hand help. So basically what happened that day was the person that evaluated, she ended up going home. Erik went to bed. We were left feeling alone, especially me as his mom. Very confused, very, very frustrated, not knowing what to do. So I decided that whole week I was going to do everything I could. So starting Sunday, I went to the hospital on Sunday. I mean, I went to them. I sat there. I had them do the whole thing. They evaluated him. Same procedure. It took forever. They sent us home. Same thing. Nobody would take them. So basically, Monday, same thing. I went to the hospital. And then I went to the behavioral health hospital, and they did this. The exact same thing happened. Tuesday, they came to us. I think Wednesday they came to us. Thursday, some guy came to us, and we had the same result. We got somebody who said, you know, there's absolutely no way we can take him. He's too sick. We can't help him. So now I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I've got to get help. I can't keep doing this. He's not safe. It's not safe for us. It's not safe for the girls. My husband or I mean, we need help. So I heard of a hospital in Terre Haute, Indiana, and I called them. And they have a waiting list, which is almost unheard of in most places. And so they put us on a waiting list, and I was really happy. And so the next day they called. They said they had a spot for Erik, and I called my brother. He was going to drive with me there. It's like a 5-hour drive. We took Erik, we admitted Erik, and I thought it was a really good thing. So Erik was there for 2.5 weeks. We went to see him about a week later, and Erik was drugged. They were supposed to do a medication wash, and the girls had went back first. We let them go back. They said only 2 at a time. Had I known what they would have walked into, there was no way I would have let them go back first. They went back first, and then we went back after. And when we walked in, Erik looked like he was going to die. He was laying there drooling, couldn't talk, was in and out of consciousness, couldn't walk, talk, was crying, then he would like kind of stop crying and kind of fall asleep. His eyes were rolling. He couldn't stand. So I immediately wanted to talk to the nurse. And I talked to her, and she tried to tell me that 2 hours before this, Erik was walking and talking and singing in the hallways of the hospital. So kind of was puzzling to me, but then she said that this does happen with withdrawal. So I'm like, I'm not the expert on withdrawal, so I don't really know. So, I mean, I didn't want to tell her she was lying. But I didn't have a right feeling about it. So when we left, it was horrible. We felt so bad, a lot of tears. I got in the car, I called our primary physician on the way home. Luckily, he was on call, and he said to just keep calling there, make sure they know your presence, which I did all the time. It turns out that he was discharged after a night of being combative to the nurse, to the staff, being self-injurious to himself, destructive, and they had to give him a sedative shot to calm him down, but then they discharged him the next day, which absolutely makes no sense. They said they couldn't do anything else with him, and we had to take him home. So we did. We had to go get him. It was the 12th of November of 2014. So me and my husband drove up to Terre Haute, got Erik. About 20 minutes away from Terre Haute, once we were driving home, he started having hallucinations, started getting aggressive. We did the best we could to get him home. We did get him home. While he was at Terre Haute, he lost all complete control of his he was potty trained, no longer potty trained at all. He did actually know, but he lost that before he went. Overnight he was completely verbal. Overnight he became nonverbal. He was completely potty trained except for nighttime. He did wear a pull-up at night, completely incontinent. He just lost it all. He was like a 4 to 5 year level. He turned into almost like a 1 to 2 year level overnight. It just happened, just overnight like that. So it was very puzzling. I've never seen anything like it. So, we brought him home. I went to fill his prescription of Depakote, which is one of the meds he was on. And I looked at the prescription, luckily, and it said he was on 500 milligrams 3 times a day of Depakote. Erik had lost a lot of weight, and he's really, really tiny. He does not look like he's 12. Well, he's 12 now, but he was 11 then. And that's a lot of medication. That is so much medication. And so I was really wondering what was going on at that hospital by this point. And so he was evaluated by my friend who's a psychologist. She actually specializes in schizophrenia for Thursday and Friday. And she didn't want to give him the schizophrenia diagnosis because of his age. Because he has autism, it's kind of hard. So she said he was what she calls psychosis NOS, which is not otherwise specified. So she says, well, we're going to keep an eye on it and see what happens. Oh, okay. Like, what is that? So anyways, the next day, I showed her the medication, and she's like, oh no, this is way too much. She's like, and I never consented to it. They never even asked me if they could change his meds. So the next day, I decided to take him to the ER after a really rough night with him. He was very, very upset. We took him to the ER, and told our story of what happened once they got him in there. And they're like, "You are kidding." They looked at the bottle. They got a CAT scan done. They got blood work done, and he had toxicity of Depakote toxicity. So he was overdosed. And for his little body, I mean, he is so tiny. That was not good. So he did go to Central DuPage Hospital for 6 days, and they gave him a whole medical workup. The first day was spent in ICU, pediatrics ICU. The next day he went to just a regular room, but it was right next to ICU, so they could keep an eye on him. And it was a pretty intense time. He had a neurologist do all kinds of tests. They found swelling in his brain, but the neurologist did tell me that that had nothing to do with any of his symptoms. Whether it really did, I don't know for sure. I still have my doubts because so many things happen. Like, it's just so much of a coincidence of what went on. You know, just so much of a coincidence. He did have an EEG. He had tons of blood work done, just tons of things done. And then with the MRI, they also apparently missed, or they forgot to tell me, which somebody else saw like 2 months later. There was a lesion present in his brain, but they failed to tell me this at that point. I don't know how they missed or forgot to tell me this, but there was a lesion present. So once he got out of there, he actually did get into Stringwood Behavioral Health. And that's where, and once they took him the first time, they never turned him away again. And they ended up being our saving grace. They took him every time. He stayed there until he went. I mean, other than the times he was discharged and the medical hospitals that he went to, he was at Stringwood Behavioral Health. And they were really good with him. They did really good. The psychiatrist was great. The staff was great. I really love that place. I would recommend going there. They are great. They have an autism unit, and they have all these different kinds of units. They are wonderful. So he did go to Rush University a couple times for medical workups, and they did check, did a lot of blood work, a lot of tests, and he did definitely have an MRI that showed that he does have a lesion. He does have abnormalities of the brain, and they don't know why. They don't know if what's in there is malignant. They can't touch it because it's right by the brainstem, which is not good because you don't know what's going on. You know, it's just kind of there. So it's one of those things that's just like, you know, you want to be able to get in there and check it and help them, but yet it could cause a lot more damage than you want to have happen. So he's got so much going on that he's so complex, and just trying to find out what is what to do with what, and what is causing what. Because I mean, some of this stuff in the brain could be causing the schizophrenia. It could be causing the bipolar. It could be causing so many other things going on with him, but we don't know. So, he's just, and he doesn't understand anything that's going on. You can't tell him and explain to him why he was at Streamwood, why he can't come home, you know. So, he did come home in April, and that visit lasted about 16 hours, where he attacked me. He attacked Lexi. I called 911. They came. We went to the emergency room. He went back to Stringwood, and that was the last time he was home. From there, he went to NIA, and that was very, very hard on all of us. When I got the phone, or actually, I called NIA and I told them, you know, that I thought we needed to talk about getting him in, because with me and Dr. Lowe had actually, we had actually talked. I wanted to be proactive, and I wanted to go visit some places, and we went and talked about seeing some facilities. That was one of the places we seen. It was so close. I was hoping it was a good place. We went to see some facilities, and that was a place that I really liked, and it was close. It was great. So I was hoping he could get in there, and when I called, they said that they didn't have a bed, and I was like, oh no. But I got a call 2 weeks later saying that they made accommodations, moved a couple kids around, and that they had a bed for Erik. And I had just pulled in my driveway, and I'll never forget, I was like happy, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is really happening. So I remember going in the kitchen, walking in Erik's room, and just bawling, just standing there looking at his stuff and crying, just like, oh my gosh, And then I had the comments from family members and friends saying, oh, you knew this would come, and oh, don't be upset, you did everything you could, or don't worry about it, he's close. But nobody understood the gravity of what this is. I mean, I'm his mom, and I wanted to save him, I wanted to protect him, and I can't, So it was really, really hard. He requires help in every aspect. He really does. He needs help in everything he does. If you're lucky, sometimes you can talk to him and get him to respond to you. Now, a lot of times when he talks, he's talking to what he perceives to be real in the world. His friends that he perceives to be there. Sometimes if you want to talk to him, you have to get him to focus on you, and then kind of get him to repeat to you what you want him to say, or to get him to respond to you. Like if you ask him a question, to get him to respond to you as to what you were asking him. And sometimes it's not appropriate. Sometimes you'll get a lucid response. NIA has been great. They have done wonders. He has made a lot of really good strides. The thing with Erik is that he can have really good progress. Say we'll go 2 weeks, and he'll do really good, and then all of a sudden it'll just go back, and we'll be back to square one. He's a pretty complex kid, and he has a lot of really hard things to deal with, and it's just really hard to see and to take care of, and to see that every day. I took him to yesterday. He had a repeat MRI, and he the whole time, except for when he was under, he hallucinated the whole day at Lutheran General, or not Lutheran General, Loyola, and that was hard. And they have a staff come with, so I had help, but they actually had more people from NIA come to help get him back, because usually I go and pick up the staff, but I couldn't yesterday. It was pretty bad, and it was so sad to see him go through that because he doesn't understand. So, but one thing about mental health is, like with autism, like I said, it's not mental health, but then when you get that combined with all the other things, it's really hard to differentiate what's what, because so many things, they mimic each other. I mean, if you have, when Erik just had autism, he saw a psychiatrist for antipsychotic medication to help with his aggression, because with autism comes aggression, but autism is a developmental disorder. But then you get other things sometimes that come into it. If you get ADHD, that's still a developmental disorder, but then you get bipolar, like Erik has, schizophrenia, all the other different kinds of mental health. It just gets to be so hard to differentiate what's what, because a lot of them mimic each other. And there is such a stigma on mental health these days that it's such a hard thing, because people view it so different. Like if you say, somebody I know has cancer, my family member has cancer, people are all about, helping and caring about that. But if you say anything about mental health, they're like, oh, it's the brain, and they're not not really understanding it. And so there needs to be a lot more awareness about the fact that mental health can be just as debilitating as cancer. You can die from having mental health issues. It can be debilitating. It can cause a lot of problems in your life, in your family, in every aspect of your life. And it's important to take care of yourself so that if you do have a mental health issue, you get that taken care of as soon as you can. And if you know somebody, you also try to get them help, try to get them to see that they need the help, try to help them and support them, because your support system is huge. I can't say that enough. I mean, like with me, I've had an issue where I need the support, and I've had a support system that I thought was strong, and unfortunately my support system keeps dwindling. You find out who your real friends are, especially because with me, I struggle now with depression. Grief comes with, having a child with autism, with, schizophrenia, with bipolar. I struggle with anxiety. I struggle with a lot of things, and I need somebody to help me when I feel like I need to lean on somebody. And so I have people behind me, but then when I need somebody, they're not there. And I need somebody who's going to be there for me. So I think, having your support system be strong and somebody who really has your back and is not going to leave, it's so important to have that. And I can say now that I'm starting to build up a really good support system. Of course, I have my family, my girls. They're my support system, my husband. I have at Northern Illinois Academy, I have two amazing men. Wally is the clinical director there, and he is amazing. He makes time for me all the time. I'm actually having a meeting with him today after this. And Sean, who's also in the meeting, and he's Erik's therapist. And those two make time for me to help me with a lot of issues, not just Erik, but other issues in my life. And they've made time for me just because they care. And I don't believe that they're going to leave. But I've had people leave, and I've had my support system dwindle, and that's a hard thing. So, and another thing too is mental health is not something to be ashamed of. It's something, if you ask for help, people think that it's a weakness to ask for help. It's actually, to me, it's a real big strength. Asking for help is one of the biggest strengths I think there is. All you guys should really remember that, because that is so important to remember. So I just wanted to let you guys know what Erik has taught me as being his mother. You guys can probably relate to this. Erik has taught me a lot about, he's taught me how to love. I mean, I've always been a loving person. That's always how I've been. But he has taught me unconditional love like I've never felt before. He's taught me compassion. He's taught me how to be more accepting of people, which I feel like I always have been, but he's always taught me this on a different level. I've learned how to not judge, because you never know what's happening on the other side. You never know what's happening that you're not seeing. You never know what somebody else's life is really like that they're not showing you. Erik has taught me how to be patient. I think I've always been a patient person, have I? Thank you. I think I've been pretty patient. I mean, as patient as mom can be. But Erik has taught me to be a lot more patient, because with him, you've got to be patient. There's a lot of waiting, and there's a lot of deep breaths and waiting for him to do what you ask or not do what you ask, and having to wait for him to do what you ask. So it's a challenge, but he's taught me a lot about patience, and a lot about doing things, differently. I'm all about helping people. I work as an advocate now, volunteer. I help many families. I had an autism support group. I now belong to the PASS group at Northern, which is basically it's the equivalent of like a PTA / parent support group / activity planner, and then a board member. So we kind of like do it all, handle everything across the board, which is really cool. I really like it. And then I also am an ABA therapist, so I work with autistic children now. So, and I just, I think that getting the word out there on mental illness is definitely something that really needs to be done, because the world needs to know that it needs to be accepted. And there needs to be a lot more help on that. And, I mean, even developmental disabilities as well as mental illness, because those two things do get ignored more than they should. So that's Erik in a nutshell, and that's my life. So, does anybody have any questions? Anything you want to know?
What kind of hallucinations do you have?
His hallucinations would be more like he would see like things would hurt him, like tactile, where he would feel things hurting him. He would say "ow" over and over, and feel like he was being attacked, but there wasn't anything there. We could just support him through it and help him know that he was safe, but he was feeling like he was being attacked.
Or you would run from things too.
And he would run from things. He would like literally try to like book it out of the house or out of the door in a night. So he would try to just get away as soon as possible. He'd feel like people were chasing him. He would see people. Sometimes all of a sudden sometimes he would get a really dark look on his face and you'd see it coming. Sometimes you don't see it coming, but when he gets that dark look, it's almost like his eyes almost like turn black. I mean, his whole face, like, it just changes. And then it just happens where he just will lash out. And who's ever in the line of fire is going to get it. So it's like you got to kind of get on guard the minute that you see that. Or if you start hearing the names, because there's names like Sam, he uses the name Sam. That's been from the get-go. Sam is one of his hallucinations that he has, and he is always mean. He's come up with some new names. There's a Sandy, there's an Arlene. Those two are very mean as well. So, yeah, he's certainly goes through a lot.
Yep. Thank you. See you later.
Any other questions? Or anything you want to know about Erik? Even you can ask them. I think you know everything.
I want to hear from you two a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm the oldest of the other two. So it's kind of different, obviously, from being someone's mom, because you're not their mom, and it's just a different kind of love. But I mean, from the moment he was born, he was like my little nugget baby. I mean, obviously you too, but he was the baby of the family, and it's so different than any other kind of love I've experienced. So watching him go from being able to talk with me and laugh, and we'll have a conversation, be able to hold that conversation, and just completely stop that communication. And when I look at him now, it's just like he's looking right through me. It's really sad. It's heartbreaking. And not being able to save someone that you love and care about is probably one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever had to go through. And over Christmas, it was really hard because he wasn't with us on Christmas morning. He came to see us on Christmas Eve with his one of his staff workers or staff.
One-on-one.
His one-on-one. Thank you. I don't know. But he came that night, and then he was with us in the afternoon and evening of the next day. But he wasn't there in the morning to do his Santa Claus stuff, and just and it was sad because it's always been the three of us, and it was down to two, and it was just really strange. But it was nice, and also because I'm 20, I'm not able to go all the time to visit him, and I've got things going on all the time, and I'm teaching and stuff like that, so I can't always just drop in and see him all the time. So I have always really struggled with just being sad that I can't be there to save him. But over Christmas, when we did see him, his one-on-one that was with let me know that he'll sometimes stop and just say my name, and I was really surprised because I didn't really think about the fact that he really thought about it, and she told me that he probably remembers a lot of the memories that we have. And stuff like that. So there's hope, and it's just mental illness is important to me as well, just because I've struggled with anxiety from this too, and I mean mental illness is a huge deal, and if you or someone you know is going through something like that, doesn't have to be like Erik's situation, but mental illness in general, speak out about it, get help for them, get help for yourself, because it is, once you get that help, you are able to keep rising up. But yeah, so any questions for me? No? Great. I'm gonna get out of the camera.
Lauren?
I'm not doing
Your teacher said you have to. You have to listen to your teacher.
On the stage. I am curious, Lauren.
I've talked about it with you guys, but it's really uncomfortable. I think it kind of affects everybody. It's like a cycle, like he has this, and then my mom, my sister, my stepdad, me, we all it's very stressful and brings on depression, anxiety, losing a family member, even though he's still there. And he's still him, he's still alive, but he's very different. So that's kind of hard. But if we go to see him, it's nice. We go to see him once a week for therapy. His therapist is very nice. And it's nice seeing him. So.
Yeah, we got really lucky. We've got a really good therapist who's very, very supportive, and is, like I said, I mean, he's fun. I mean, he's really like a big kid. I mean, he can get down to Erik's level. We play volleyball in this tiny little room with this humongous ball. I mean, it's like really fun. And then, he can have a therapy session with just me if I'm having struggles and stuff. And it doesn't even have to be just about Erik. He's helped me with other areas too. Just because, I'm Erik's mom. I'm his most important person in his life, and I've got to remain healthy for him and my girls and my husband and my whole family, because I need to be here. And I am Erik's everything, because I'm his advocate, because I am there all the time. And he depends on me, and he always has. So it's pretty important. So does anybody have anything they can think of that they want to ask? If not, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys my email address. I don't know, can I post it on the board?
Yeah, the same one that you emailed me from?
Did you have a new one?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that way then they can email me if anybody wants to ask. You can email me for any reason at all. Questions you think of later, to chit chat, even ask a question, anything. What? What? Yeah. Yeah, tell her Lauren. If she's acting up, you let me know. Let me know, because believe me, she'll get it. Knock it off.